Welcome to Travel Again Presents, the weekly travel roundup covering the headwinds and tailwinds impacting the business of travel. Please welcome our hosts, Mike McCormick and Ed Silver. Hello, Mike. How you doing?
Hey, Ed. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you too. Wow, it is season 4, our first episode. We're kicking it back into high gear here, Mike.
Absolutely. First episode, new season.
It's awesome. It's fall here in Asheville. It's beautiful, cold. The leaves are changed already. It's quite spectacular here.
Yeah, awesome. Well, it's great to be back, and we got a good another season, terrific lineup. Excited about our first guest to kick it off, and got a lot to talk about as always, right?
As always. I mean, this is an amazing guest we have today. We're going to kick off the season with an icon in our space. I'm really excited to hear what he has to say. Mike, and since we last spoke, though, so much has happened. I don't even know which news to pick from. There's right? So much to choose from.
Well, and as always with our industry, it's always like a mixed bag of things, right? Of like that, as we always say, the headwinds and tailwinds, right? But on one hand, certainly the major U.S. carriers, but in general, airline industry reaping the benefits of premium cabin, usage, but interesting dynamics because, outbound from the U.S., certainly globally, generally, airlines are doing well and business is up. We're well past the post-pandemic recovery. This is just not, real growth that's coming in the system. But then you have pockets like U.S. hotel industry kind of hitting more of the headwinds, and as a result of tariffs and policies and that political kind of views that now are really and the shutdown of the U.S. government that's really affecting inbound traffic that for tourism and business that basically that hotels rely upon. So you've got kind of a mixed bag there. Actually, interesting always, right? The different factors that drive growth or challenges within certain segments, it always is changing, right? And then of course, in general, there's always business transactions in our industry that are interesting. We're going to talk about one of them today. The impact of AI, and this is up your alley for sure, but so much going on there in terms of just, I think we're at a huge pivotal change in our industry that we're right in the middle of now. This is it's exciting. It creates a lot of opportunity, but it also means a lot of change for the businesses that have been in the space, right?
No doubt.
Yeah. So,
well, Mike, with that, why don't we bust right into it? I've got some interesting news stories for us to go through today. And I like this first one because it's kind of a twofer. Let me throw it up on the screen and we could talk about it. This one's from MSNBC, or it's just MSN these days. The government shutdown has killed IPOs, and Navan stock tumbled in its debut. Mike from MSN, I'll read you the opening. The IPO window hasn't been completely nailed shut during the government shutdown, but the number of initial public offerings that have made it to Wall Street since late September has slowed considerably, and most have been quite small. And as noted, Navan has struggled. So what's the combination here between government shutdown, IPOs, and let's talk about Navan?
Yeah, so a lot of play, right? So first off, the government shutdown piece, I mean, you've got it definitely has an impact in terms of basically the process you have to go through to do an IPO, right? And the impact, the requirements you have to go through if people if those things grind to a halt, they grind to a halt. I mean, not reflective of market conditions. This is just purely the function of getting to through the IPO process. And so, there's definitely like an interesting dynamics around, what the market is doing, which continues to do well, but seemingly almost in spite of some of the underlying indicators that are there.
Yeah.
So I think it's harder environment to do an IPO right now for those reasons, right? Just there's a lot of just, kind of not specific to your business or your industry, just this issues about going public at this time. Now, Navan has been well down that path before the government shutdown, well down that path in terms of, almost, a long awaiting for them to actually finally go public, right? But what's interesting is that, their hope was to come out, and I've written about this, like our industry's hope was that they would be successful and they would come out and they would have a successful IPO. And over the coming months, their stock will hold value. And the reason for that is because, this is about elevating the industry, not just one particular company. This is about proving out the model that, an offering such as theirs and their competitors is more than just a travel booking, travel distribution play. It's about expense. It's about, end-to-end systems. It's about the ability to grow revenues well beyond, booking airline tickets and hotel rooms, right? It's about a much bigger play and getting valued for that. And that's something that the industry has not been able to do to date largely. I mean, I think the only thing we can point at is back to SAP's acquisition of Concur, which was at a very nice valuation, that they saw the potential back years ago.
Yeah.
And so that, specifically for their business, but, that was about, that was about them, their acquisition of Concur, and then eventually the efforts to integrate that into the SAP, ecosystem. So this is, this is that next, kind of play, and a very public one. And obviously we're all watching it within the industry. Now they came out, they went out at 25. They initially fell to 20. They're down to 16. Their trajectory is not really any different than what Amex went, Amex GBT went through when they did their SPAC IPO. Same thing. I mean, went out publicly, then had the initial dip and have been, kind of working to climb their way back. But again, still not seeing, I'd say, the valuation that they, that we as the, what industry would want, and I'm sure ones they're hoping for. They've made progress since the that initial dip, but again, it's been a slow, steady climb back, right? So again, will be interesting whether Navan follows that same trajectory. Is this more short term? Can they accelerate through it faster? I mean, obviously, the initial financial results over the next coming, quarters will really have a big impact on that outcome, right? So again, there's a lot there, to say the least, right?
Yep.
But one we're really watching again is an industry, because I think it's a really interesting and really key indicator of valuations for a lot of businesses over the coming next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd encourage our listeners to go check out your article from the Exit Row a few weeks ago. Good piece on why we should all be rooting, for Navan, no matter how you feel about it, just as an industry. So that is a great piece to check out. Mike, I've got our second article. Kayak CEO, our good friend Steve Hafner, is back on the circuit, and he says Kayak CEO on his $457 million write-down, Google squeeze travel. From our friends at Skiff, Booking Holdings announced Tuesday it took a $457 million accounting write-down on its Kayak brand because of an unexpected reduction in cash flow and hikes in customer acquisition costs. Kayak co-founder and CEO Steve Hafner explanation to Skiff about what happened has implications throughout the travel industry. Hafner laid much of the blame on the rise of large language models, which includes Google's AI overviews. Kayak, he said, had to spend more money on Google ads to attract traffic that previously came from clicks on free links. So many in the travel industry and across the broader spectrum are still trying to figure out what's the impact of AI overviews on Google traffic. But this one hit Kayak pretty hard, Mike. What's the context here?
Well, in the interview, the part you didn't mention is that Steve called it a nothing burger, which $457 million is more than Nothing Burger. It's, it's probably at
Maybe
least
to Steve, it's a nothing burger, but
yeah,
I don't know. It sounds like a lot of money.
it's probably more of a double quarter pounder, with cheese, I'd say, or maybe an unhappy meal. I don't know. But but his explanation is solid. I mean, I agree with his, assessment. Is that this is a shift in how, Google and others are using AI to shift, basically shift to their benefit, traffic going into a more away from organic search and into more of a paid model. And so, they, like he said, I mean, it's a write down based on the, technical book value of the kayak brand.
Yeah.
The other guys who are public, have the, they depending on their structure, I mean, they just see it in terms of reduction of the value of their company, right? And so,
and it is just an accounting quirk in some ways, really.
It is in some ways, but the underlying impact it's having on the business, meaning it's getting more expensive than ever for them to, basically attract the traffic that they need to, to continue to grow their business, is real. And that's a very real issue. Now, I will also say it's hard to have a lot of sympathy because the large players in the space have basically, along with the Google model, have made it virtually impossible for small brands with small budgets to compete. So it's kind of like, yeah, you're shifting maybe some economics between Google and Kayak, but it's not, still the rest of the market, it's very difficult to, and almost impossible without enormous budgets, to play in that space.
Yeah. And there was this weird quirk after this article was updated, was published. They did update that Google Chief Business Officer, actually mentioned Kayak in their third quarter earnings as a successful partner of a new tool called AI Max, which is supposed to help businesses recover from the AI overview. And apparently they did have some conversion increase after testing this tool. But I think this is going to be an ongoing story for travel providers, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. It's another area to watch. It's these big underlying, underpinnings of the industry that drive the big macroeconomics for our industry that, you almost, it's like you can't lose sight of them. You have to kind of step back and look at the big picture and what's happening and how this is going to, in the long term, can really change the whole competitive environment.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to hear more from our guest about that article because the media space is changing quite a bit. But this last one, I'm really excited to hear from him about. JTB completes Northstar Travel Group acquisition from our friends at Travel Weekly. Northstar Travel Group, parent company of the Travel Weekly and other B2B media and event titles in the travel space, announced the completion of its acquisition by JTB Corp from investment fund managed by Eagle Tree Capital and its co-investors. Northstar will operate as a wholly owned independent subsidiary of JTB and continue to be led by its existing management team, including CEO Jason Young. So, Mike, we've been following this one for a long time.
Yep.
Try to give us some perspective on this.
Well, I think our guests will give us the real perspective. Again, really interesting, acquisition. Certainly in travel media, it's, Northstar by far is the biggest player in the space globally. And, given the whole, list of brands that is under the umbrella, including, my old company, Phocuswright, and then obviously, BTN, Travel Weekly, the brands we've known and read for years and years and years, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, relationship, interesting acquisition for JTB. So love to get, our guests' view on, what this all means and what it means for travel media, in the years to come. So I think
very good.
I will defer to the expert that's about ready to join us.
Okay. Mike, we will be right back with our guest. Mike, thanks to our sponsor, Safe Travel RX, an app that takes the worry off your itinerary, providing travel peace of mind with emergency response components, travel security, and risk management, especially for those traveling internationally. It includes 24/7 global concierge assistance. Landed in the hospital in China, forgot your prescription, wallet stolen? Safe Travel RX is your prescription for better, safer travel. Mike, how about that jump the line service? Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so this is a new element that they just added to their product. I think it's really interesting. It's really targeting, just when you think every segment of the industry has been addressed in some way, the realities are there's a segment that's there that really needed a new product and service, and this is it. And it's, when you think about when you're traveling and you're on a certain airline and the mechanical happens, the flight disruption some way that's impacting your airline. Long ago, showing my age a little bit, there used to be a time when that happened on one airline. They would walk you over to another airline so that you could get out and get a flight out. That doesn't happen obviously at all anymore. I mean,
Never.
there's no cooperation between them. It is, you're that. So in those situations when you just absolutely have to get somewhere, your particular flight's being disrupted, to have a service that basically can get you real-time information, get you the flight you need, because you're not going to go walk from one terminal to another and abandon the flight you're on, unless you're secure in the fact that you got a seat and you're ready to go on another airplane. So the jump the line is basically another service they're offering. It guaranteed. You basically hit the button on the app, you get a guaranteed call back within like a couple minutes, and they take care of you and get you on your way. So it's like it's a next kind of generation real time. Hey, look, if you work for big corporation and you've got a TMC and they're giving you a high level 24-hour service, like, yeah, you've got a way to go. But for most people out there, they don't have that level of support. So
Yep.
this is part of their offering, fits in well. The whole jump is about basically that's their overall offering, and trying to find these different ways where, whether it's medically related, disruption related, they're trying to solve for those problems in a way for people when they just absolutely need help, they get it. And it's an easy hit your app, press the button, and the response is there. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Download it today to discover the power of Safe Travel RX. Safe Travel RX, your prescription for better travel. All right, Mike, now on to our guest.
Yep.
Today, joining us is Tom Kemp. Tom is a seasoned executive and private equity investor with extensive experience in business-to-business information, events, and media. He has led the growth of Northstar Travel Group into a leading global travel industry company, providing information, marketing solutions, and e-commerce services. Among many high-profile roles in his career, Tom was previously chairman and CEO of Penton Media and president and CEO of Miller Friedman. Over his career, he has completed and integrated over 100 transactions and had extensive experience in public company leadership of financing. Tom currently serves in numerous board positions, including MMGY Global, as well as chairman of PRA Business Events. By the way, Mike, MMGY is one of the biggest ad agencies in the DMO space, including the agency of record for Explore Asheville.
Very nice.
Tom has numerous honors, including induction into the B2B Media Hall of Fame in 2023. Mike, please welcome to the stage Tom Kemp. Tom, welcome.
There he is. Oh, you're on mute. There you go. Welcome, Tom. Hey, great to have you. Good to see you.
Can you hear me okay?
There we go. I think you're unmuted now, Tom.
You
Can you hear us?
Oh, you're all good.
Absolutely. I enjoyed the segments and Mike, your comments about Navan, I think, are really important. And even Amex GBT is rooting for him to be successful because it's good for the whole industry, not just the TMC space, but obviously very important for the entire travel industry. And in fact, we have our Phocuswright conference. You mentioned Phocuswright, Mike, coming up in 2 weeks in San Diego this year. And certainly the potential for startups to be VC backed and then to eventually do an IPO is important for the whole industry. So it's good to see the industry doing well from that standpoint, but Navan's gotten off to a bit of a rocky start. So we'll see. But good morning from Mill Valley, California. If you can't see it outside, my back deck was filled with redwood trees and lovely spot. We actually moved back here from New Canaan, Connecticut during COVID because we bought the home. The last time we sold Northstar, we bought our home here with the intent of eventually getting back to Northern California, which is where I got my start in business. Certainly the Northstar Travel Group acquisition by JTB was monumental. It was just give you a little bit of background on that. I'd stepped down. I started at Northstar in January of 2009. We used to call it the Great Recession, although after going through COVID, that was nothing.
Yeah. That was like, what were we complaining about?
Exactly.
Like the industry is down 20%. It's like, oh, what are we gonna do? It's like 90%. All right, that's like, I mean, yeah.
So I started in January 2009. Was CEO up until January 2023. Our expectation was to take the company out to the market, depending on our full recovery. And by 23-24, we pretty much fully recovered from COVID. And then depending on market timing, so we knew that we were going to make that transition. So we brought in a new CEO, Jason Young, who's done a fantastic job. Deep experience. He was CEO of Ziff Davis, the top technology, media, and information events company for a long time. And also deep experience in ad tech and marketing tech, and really a technology and data-driven focus on the company, which is the future of our business. So I stepped down in January 2023. I'd had 3 different private equity partners at Northstar, and in fact, our Eagle Tree, with whom I'm still working for both MMGY as well as PRA corporate events. Has been my partner. I like to say that we were past our sell-by date. We were 9 years into the deal.
Yeah,
because private equity partners are great, but they don't like to have you around that long.
No,
not that long.
Yeah, like it's like relatives, right? For a company, right? It's like
okay, time to go. We stay past your welcome. Bye bye.
Yeah.
But the company has certainly transformed tremendously since when I joined it. We had 3 brands: Travel Weekly, Travel Age West, and Meetings and Conventions.
Yep.
We had some subscription information products, and we only had 2 events: the Travel Weekly Leadership Forum at Pebble Beach, which is now in its 27th year, and the Travel Weekly Readers' Choice Awards in New York City every December. But that's all we had. And 70% of our revenue came from print advertising. It was really kind of a traditional trade magazine publishing business at that point in time. And so the first thing we set out to do was build an event business, either through acquisition or startups, and then to build out our data and digital media business through our websites, and then build a custom content studio to do custom work for our clients. And we've really transformed the business. In fact, so we started off with 3 brands, and our revenue was about a little less than $30 million in 2009 and $4.5 million of EBITDA. And when we exited this year, the pro forma for Intopia, which was sold earlier in the year to Outside, about $130 million of revenue, about $36 million of EBITDA this year. So the company changed dramatically. But most importantly, our event business went from 2 events to about 125 events in 12 different countries this year. And we built that through, and in fact, we mentioned Phocuswright, and thinking about changing the company dramatically, not only changing the mix of our business, but also the culture of the business. You know, we came from a print advertising magazine centric perspective, and that was kind of the culture of the business. And we really needed to change it dramatically. And one of the ways in which I envision changing the culture is through acquisition. So not only bringing in new businesses and new brands into the company, but also the talent into the company. And I think strategically, I think the most important acquisition we did in my career was the Phocuswright conference, and buying that from Carol and from Philip Wolf.
Yeah,
it's because it got us into research.
Yeah, it's like it was like even though it's niche in terms of its important, but it was that's true. It was reflecting back. It was kind of a real change. Like it was the beginnings of your whole transition of the bigger picture, right? And that like you said, really like doubling down on events and starting to really focus on data, which has been a long play. But yeah, that's you're right. I never really thought about it that way. It was kind of the little spark, right?
Your injection for you in many ways.
Yeah, because it not only, it did a lot of things. One, it obviously got us into research and content and data and subscription information products. That was the foundation of Phocuswright, Mike, as you well know, is that how it started with Lorraine and Philip. And it got us into high quality events. And instead of like a trade show, like a GBTA, for instance, Phocuswright is really a content-driven event of leaders in the industry. It wasn't so much about the trade show portion of it. That was minor compared to the networking, the content, and the interaction in the industry. And it also got us into a new segment. We were largely in the retail travel advisory segment, which was the biggest segment, which still is to this day. But it got us into what, going up to Philip's office in Connecticut, there's that street sign that had the intersection of travel and technology. Yeah. And so it got us into the cutting edge part of the future instead of travel agents. And of course, everyone at that point in time thought travel agents were dying and they were all going to be gone and dinosaurs. And of course, that hasn't happened. No. But the transition from traditional distribution channels to online distribution channels and the OTA market and the whole travel technology space. So I think strategically, by far, Phocuswright was our most important acquisition, and also bringing in a new culture into the business. People like Douglas Quimby and Lorraine Cilio, and working with Philip and Bruce Rizzard and the whole team. It really brought a different culture, different mindset, much more entrepreneurial than the traditional business had been. Successful meetings in SMU International, which was another very important face-to-face event. And then both the Burba Hotel Network, which includes the Alice Show, which is the largest hotel investment conference in the world, really put us in a different space in terms of hospitality. And then the Centaur Travel Shows, business travel show, and the meeting show in London. Those were more traditional trade shows, but we've turned it into hosted buyer events as well for high quality corporate travel advisors. But I think the combination of organic growth, I mean, out of our 125 shows now, I think about 35 to 40 of those events were acquisitions, and the rest were green shoots, startups. In fact, we're having the anniversary, I think the 15th anniversary this week of our Cruise World event, which was our first internal launch that Bob Sullivan and I launched back in 2010. And that's become a bulwark of the company. And we've really expanded into Singapore with our events. Singapore and APAC has been a real growth area, and that ties in with JTB and wanting to expand into APAC as well.
Yeah. So with JTB, I mean, I think when the deal was announced, it was a little like, well, like why? Like,
it was a head scratcher. Come on.
A bit. It was. Well, just because it was kind of an unexpected.
Well, it was a surprise.
Yeah,
Maybe.
it was. But I think
It was a surprise. While our investment bankers, Bright Tower, who did a fantastic job for us throughout this whole process, while they might want to take credit for it, I can tell you that in terms of our list of potential buyers, and both financial buyers and strategic buyers, JTB was not high on that list.
I'm sure, right? Yeah.
And JTB had approached us sometime late last year, that said that they were potentially interested in Northstar. Actually, they approached Eagletree, and the Eagletree also owns PRE Corporate Events, of which I'm chairman and was interim CEO for a period of time this year. But they have the largest DMC. JTB owns the largest DMC in Hawaii. And so originally, Eagletree thought they were interested in PRA. Instead, they said, no, we're interested in Northstar. And so we signed an NDA and gave them all the information they wanted. We didn't hear anything for a while. And we were preparing. We sold off Intopia earlier this year to Outside, which fits into their outside position, because Intopia is a SaaS e-commerce company's white label software, mainly in the ski resort and mountain destination industry. And so that was a good fit with Outside. But we were getting ready to, a lot dependent on market conditions and interest rates and financing and all those kind of things that go into M&A, which is still kind of, fraught a bit in spite of the stock market being strong. And so we were preparing to go out. And then all of a sudden last summer, we got an LOI from JTB. Kind of like and it was a serious, well thought out LOI from the chairman at a good valuation. Not the top valuation, but it was a very good double-digit valuation of the business. And we started engaging with them and getting them. And they said to us, if we can get some more information, we might be able to increase our purchase price. And so we worked with them for the next several weeks and months. And they were just, they did what they say. It wasn't like negotiating with a financial buyer of your business and looking to retrade or looking for the gotcha, or having a swarm of young MBAs who are asking for stupid things from 5 years ago,
and trying to pick apart every aspect of your business and look for all the
we've been there, done that.
Exactly. And so their approach was very different. They were very diligent. Very much when they laid out a timeline, they kept, and we laid out a time, worked through that timeline. We kept to it to the day, every step of the way. And they were really good partners to work with. Now, there were some cultural issues and some legal issues because of a Japanese company. And as you probably know, JTB is a multi-billion-dollar travel, 100% travel-related company. Started off as kind of a tour operator and travel advisory company. Has been looking to expand more and more globally, which fits in with us. And what they really want to do is expand the particularly inbound tourism into Japan, and to really drive that business. And they feel, in fact, the CEO was at our web and travel conference shortly after the transaction was announced in early October. And he talked about looking at the demographics, or looking at the inbound tourism in Japan compared to other major destinations, and how they had a long way to go to really open it up, and to open up the whole country, and to deal with both not only technology and booking, but also destinations and language barriers and things that made it more difficult. But Japan's a great company. It's a great destination, and it's not just Kyoto and Tokyo. And they feel that they have a lot of upside to bring collectively into the business. And what they really want to do is move upscale in terms of the food chain and the travel industry. And that's why you saw Northstar, because of what they describe as the intelligence, the intelligence part of the travel community. And with everything from our data, our first party data, our research. They love Phocuswright, for instance, Mike. Our research capabilities, our deep relationships with 1,500 of the major travel suppliers in the world. And we have we've been expanding our position in Southeast Asia, particularly in Singapore. And we do a little bit in Japan, but we'd like to do a lot more in Japan. And so I think from our perspective, with Northstar's perspective, opening up more in Southeast Asia. What they really want to do is move upscale, become more globalized, build their brand. And they just came to, and as a seller, having a strategic buyer who's not, it's not a financial buyer, who's like, what kind of return of, multiples of invested capital over the next 3 to 4 years, and measuring the value of the business and their purchase price based on that. For JTB, they were fair and equitable, but there's a strategic buyer. They had strategic reasons to buy the business, as opposed to, and instead of thinking in 3 to 5 year terms, they think in 100-year terms. So,
well, I was going to say, not to generalize,
and they also,
that's their model, right? I mean, generally that's the model, right? It's like for a Japanese ownership, it's like more of like, you think you're thinking long term, you're thinking, big strategic play, buy and hold, not 3-4 year, like you said, 3 to 4 year flip, model, right? It's like that's what's needed in the space. Yeah, I mean, it is. Yeah, it's.
In the opening LOI, they informed us that they were sitting on $2 billion US of cash, and that they would just write us a check. They didn't have to worry about the financing markets or interest rates. And you always like to hear that as a seller.
Yeah, you don't hear that every day.
What kind of leverage can you put on this business? Normal.
Exactly. We were saying like, from the outside looking in, it was like the first reaction right away was like, oh, this was one of those deals. Like you said, it had to be strategic. It had to be a very good, a very good, solid offer. Like it was clear, like, because there would be no other way to, otherwise, it'd be more of a bidding, kind of situation, but clearly it wasn't. So
when we were thinking about strategic buyers, we were thinking about companies like Informa or Clarion Event.
For the data.
Companies like that, and the events, of course, particularly our event business, which is, it was 2 events, and it was 1% of our revenue back in 2009. Now the majority of our revenue, 55%, 56% comes from events, and our event business has rebounded tremendously coming back from COVID. We're way past where we were. Think about in terms of the future of the media and information space, and the technology. We're thinking about, Steve Hafner's interview with Rafat about the impact on kayak. And, Steve is, as we all know, is quite the character, inspirational guy, fun guy, great sense of humor. The Nothing Burger, I agree with you, Mike. It's only a Nothing Burger from, I think his point is it's a non-cash impact on the business, and is an accounting write-down, but really doesn't. But you were absolutely right, Mike, in that what it means is that there's been a significant impact, and anticipated, not a short-term impact, a longer-term impact on the cash flow of the business, the EBITDA of the business, because of the rising cost for customer acquisition and the impact of AI. And I think that OTAs have done a pretty good job so far with integrating AI. But I think the larger term, and they've been dealing with Google for years and years, and never thought Google was going to steal their business, and that hasn't happened. But AI and open AI and the resources and the amount of cash going into AI are tremendous. And even though Booking is the largest travel company in the world, compared to the big tech giants who are pouring billions and billions of dollars into AI, they're relatively small. We'll see what happens. But I think one of the things that attracted JTB to Northstar, and one of the things that gives me a great sense of optimism about the future of certainly of Northstar, is that from an AI perspective, what we're seeing in the event space generally, and I'm on the board of directors of an event association called CISOs, Society of Independent Show Operators,
Yep.
is that the drive for face-to-face events, if anything, is going to be a positive from AI, because when people get together face-to-face in person, they don't have to worry about, is this AI generated? Is this real? Is this really the person talking? And to, particularly as technology generally has impacted our world, and AI is going to accelerate that, and hopefully a very positive. The value of having face-to-face interaction and bringing buyers and sellers and a community together becomes that much more valuable. And we're certainly seeing it. We're up, close to 20% this year on our face-to-face events at Northstar. We're having a very good year at PRA corporate events, and PRA is a DMC serving corporate and incentive events, working with major suppliers. And our business is up double digits this year. So that value of bringing people together, and particularly as, I assume we're all like in our home office, with the remote work environment, not only getting together and seeing your customers face to face, which has become more difficult in a distributed environment. You can't just call on someone in their office anymore, but also our own people and building the culture of your business. And that's why we see in the corporate event space, a lot of major companies are using like industry events, for instance, to have their own in conjunction with events for their suppliers, their partners, their clients, as well as their own teams. To have that, because as a CEO, one thing I worry about with remote environment is losing that culture. And to me, there's nothing more important in the success of a business than the culture of a business. Someone once said that, culture eats strategy every day for breakfast. And because you can have the greatest strategic plans in the world, but it's really execution. It comes down to people. And building that culture. And I'm very proud of the culture that we built at Northstar, and the team that we've been interacting with. I'm no longer part, for the first time in 16 years. You go to the leadership page, I'm no longer chairman, but Cameo paid a very nice price to become chairman of the company for my successor. So, but one thing we like about it is they're keeping the whole team together. They want to invest in this.
I was going to say that like a testament to the Northstar, the big umbrella, and certainly the people within it, is that you look at the longevity of the people that who've stayed in all through.
Yeah, they've been there a long time.
And after, even through all the pieces you put together, you kept the teams intact, and they as a result, like, again, that culture. And your comments on the event industry, I'm totally bullish on that whole sector for the long foreseeable future, because to your point of people crave the interaction. I mean, the things you took for granted about being in an office, being like together, the teamwork that gets done, the ideas that get generated, that the focus about it. You're right.
The serendipity of that.
There is that, and
as good as this technology is, it's not the same as us sitting down and having lunch together, and all the different ways in which we communicate, including the emotions that come across. And so I think AI. So I think the face-to-face event business, but I think the media, and going back even to Hafner's comments about customer acquisition, marketing costs. Are changing dramatically, and certainly it's not just digital broadly speaking, but what we're trying to do, and I think Jason has done a great job. Brought in Nino Tasca from Google, who's working in Google AI as our chief digital officer, and really focusing on the data-driven marketing spend, and trying to move down the funnel And it's like in the old days, you buy a page of advertising in Travel Weekly for Royal Caribbean, and it was nice branding and whatever. But what did it do to drive business? It was always hard to measure that.
Yeah.
And right now is people looking for not only where to spend their money, but what are the analytics associated with that spend? And the more we can move down the funnel to draw a direct comparison, this is what Jason and Nino are really working on, and using AI partially to do this, is the connection between the amount you're spending with us on branding and advertising online and the direct impact on your business, and being able to measure that and put that in place, because you can go back to your clients. There's unlimited spend. If you can say that for every dollar you spend with us, you're going to generate $10 of incremental revenue for your business.
Right.
And we have that analytics. So I think, and for us, I think the other thing that's an advantage to us as opposed to the broader digital media industry is that we have very valuable first-party data. We have almost $1.5 million of travel professionals across the leisure travel, retail segment, the MICE segment, travel technology, the corporate TMC, corporate travel industry, the hotel investment community. And these are major buyers. It's not consumers who, do 2 vacations in years. These are volume buyers and drive a disproportionate amount of spend in travel by being travel professionals. And that's all we do, is B2B travel professionals.
Well, so
and then that data associated with it. And the other thing is that trusted brands. We've seen the proliferation of brands, and I think the brands that we have, that we built up within Northstar, create that sense of community, and that they can believe us and have that sense of trust.
Well, and you're hitting on kind of a little bit of topic to wrap up on, but you're right in terms of the trust element. And I think in the advent of AI and everything we're seeing, you joked about it before about being in person with people, but I think we're also just having there's going to be a whole like kind of reinvention around trusted sources and back to your point, like the brands and the people behind them, because when I back to like somebody like Lorraine that I known and worked with back from the early days of Phocuswright, but like when Phocuswright research comes out and her and her team, those people are behind it, I trust it's trusted source, not just some cobbled together random thing that's been generated. I have to be really much more aware about where information is coming from. And the way what I'm using to make the base the decisions on, and it's like that's I think we're seeing it every day. I mean and we're still not even at the depths.
No, it's very early. Really is
very early. Yeah. But well, Tom, I'd say we covered a lot of ground, but the wrap up question I have for you is more of one of an interesting one. I think like for all you've got tremendous perspective both about the travel industry, of course, but also and media and kind of the intersection of all of that. You're sitting at a really interesting vantage point. But if you look ahead, like what areas do you find compelling still for like reinvention or opportunity pick anything, travel or media, or events or anything? Like if you had to pick out like an area that you would focus on reinvention, what would it be?
Yeah, well, I think, 2 things. One of the things that we've really built almost from scratch in our industry, certainly in the travel industry, was not just events, but hosted buyer events where we qualify our attendees, our buyer attendees, based on how much money they spend, recommendations from their clients, and to bring in a well-qualified buyers in one-on-one situation with travel suppliers. And I think continuing to build it face-to-face, I think the face-to-face industry generally has real long-term upside, particularly in an AI-generated world, for trusted resources and trusted data. So I think the marrying of data, data with well-qualified buyers, and being able to measure as a travel supplier, being able to have a direct measurement of the impact that your dollars are having on your business. So I think and I think marrying the data and measurement tools and being able to go down in funnel and be able to demonstrate to our supplier partners, if you spend this amount of money, and being able to measure the incremental impact on your business and how much you can increase it. In terms of me personally, the reason I stepped down in 2023, my private equity firm didn't want me to step down. This was my decision, but we had originally gone out in the market in January of 2020. And at that point, I'd had 3 private equity partners. I was not, and I wasn't looking forward to rolling over with a 4th private equity partner, being tied up. No one expected 9 years, but even another 5 years. And so the private equity guys, the investment bankers said, well, you can't tell people that you're just there for a transition and you're leaving. You've built this business. And he said the strategics may not care as much, but any financial buyer, that's a big red flag.
They're going to care.
And so, with Mike Struble and Anoop Bagaria, our leaders at Eagle Tree, we came to the conclusion that before we went out next time, I did not want to find myself in that position. And so that's why we had to install. You can't just bring in a new CEO 6 months before you go out. They need to be there at least a year or 2 years to have an impact and to execute. And the way I saw it, we brought in Jason from the outside, from the tech space, because it's like when I first joined the company, I came with a strong background in events and really transformed the company from that standpoint. And the next transformation is going to be technology driven and bringing in Jason and bringing in his background and experience for the future, and data driven and ad tech. So we stepped down at that point. But it's been great for me because I'm, up until last month, still hard. I was chairman of Northstar, weekly calls, attending a lot of our events, not as many as I did as CEO, but being active in the community and keeping those connections, because I love the travel industry. In my career, I've been in a lot of different verticals.
We all do it, man.
We sure do.
In technology, I've been in healthcare and med tech and a lot of different industries. But the thing I love about travel is that it's a very collegiate. Your comment, Mike, about the community and the congeniality of the industry, and even our travel, our suppliers, and we get together and we bring people together because we're kind of Switzerland, and everyone can come together on our stage. But to see what are otherwise, highly competitive companies like the ocean cruise industry, and you get those people together, and all of a sudden they're friends with each other. They have a sense of community because their goal is not to steal market share from NCL to Royal Caribbean to Carnival, but is to grow the industry, because there's still a relatively small number of consistent cruisers, although their business has recovered. Biggest impact on COVID was on the cruise industry, but they're having the most sustainable long-term positive effect, and their forward bookings are really, really strong. But the sense of it's a fun industry.
Yeah,
as Vicky Fried likes to say, is that our job is to make people's dreams come true. Now, how can you be in a better industry than travel?
Fair enough.
And everyone loves to travel.
It is. Yeah.
And even on the corporate side, we all love to complain about how much we're on the road and how much we're traveling, whatever. As soon as it was taken away, I say, oh my God, I gotta stay home every day. We all miss that. And so it's a great industry. The people are great. Smart people, fun people, and it's just a wonderful industry. I think we've got some short-term challenges. You were talking earlier about how some of the things that we've done we were expecting to have full recovery because we never really fully recovered for inbound travel into the U.S. We were
Right.
expecting to hit it this year, and then all of a sudden we've got tariffs, we've got the messaging. And in fact, my wife and I just got back from 3 weeks in Spain and Portugal and talked to a lot of the locals about traveling to the United States, or people generally, and they say, well, we're kind of worried about traveling now. We hear these stories about getting through the border and the costs of it, and the cost of a visa, and I'm not sure where we are in the $10,000 liability insurance that people have to buy. But we're sending messages, and it's not just through specific things like make it more difficult to come into their country, but also kind of putting up a bit of a cross to the world through tariffs. Our reputation has really gone, in spite of what you hear from Washington, our global reputation in terms of us not being welcoming to the world is really deteriorating. And it breaks my heart, because we have such a great country. We have such a wonderful, our destination. I just seen what's happened to Brand USA, 80% of their funding getting cut, which is crazy. We should be doing the opposite. We should, because we have such a wonderful destination. Talk about from Asheville to Colorado to all over the country.
That's
and
right,
to be
Tom.
able to demonstrate and to be able to showcase that for people around the world, and people love our country. But right now we're going through some hits, and the uncertainty of the economy is not good. Unemployment, the macro view on unemployment is not moving the right direction. From our standpoint at Northstar, our business has grown very well this year. We've done, because a lot of our focus is on, in the leisure side, is on luxury travel, because that's who utilize high-value travel advisors. So luxury travel is held up well. Domestic travel, corporate travel, generally, the second quarter was a little bumpy, but that seems to be
still solid.
back.
Yeah,
still solid, and although not 100% recovered either, but certainly you read the earnings reports from Delta and from the airlines, they're seeing a recovery there. The hotel community, they racked up, the rates got so high post-COVID that it was just, it got a little too pricey, and we're seeing the impact this year. And RevPAR will be flat or slightly down.
Slightly down,
year on year. But it's still a tremendous industry, one that we all love, one that I think, if nothing else, COVID demonstrated to the world, not just those of us in the industry, how important travel is to us as human beings, and those experiences. And we went more towards, the things community as opposed to the experience community. And we were forced to by COVID, because we couldn't have those. So coming out of COVID is that people cherish that, the time that you can spend with, with your family and friends in destinations, going to different places. And also, I think from a global standpoint, I think our impact on the world and building those connections, when you have more familiarity with different cultures and different languages and different parts of the world, we break down those barriers. It's when things that we don't know are things that we fear. And when we go out and travel the world, we realize how much more we have in common than opposed to each other. So I'm bullish in the long term. I think we'll be fine in the short term. We've got some bumps here and there, but overall, people love to travel. It's now, they consider it a right, and it's not negotiable. They'll put off remodeling a kitchen or a bathroom or something, be able to spend time, particularly with your teenage kids, if you have them, get them off their handsets and off their iPhones. But it's a great business. Well, I love it.
Well, Tom, again, thanks for coming today. We covered a lot of ground, a lot of insight, and we'll certainly be staying in touch as we continue to maneuver through the industry. But again, love your insight, and congratulations on the Northstar transaction. I think it's great. And
Yeah. By the way, it was the biggest.
and
It was
bodes
the
well
biggest
for the industry. Yeah.
and not just the travel industry, but also the information, B2B information and event industries. It's the largest transaction in the last 2 years that's been done in that part of the industry.
Yeah.
And what I love about being it, I'm still connected, even though I've had to step down from Northstar, by being chairman of PRA Corporate Events and on the board of MMGY, a great company. And Katie Briscoe, who's the CEO, is just a delight to work with.
Yeah, she's great.
She's just wonderful. Anyway, so keeping connected that way. But I didn't want to roll over for another 5 years with another private equity partner.
Well, thank you so much, Tom, for your time. You've been very generous. Tom Kemp is former chairman and CEO of Northstar Travel Group and chairman of PRA Business Events. Tom, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Ed. Thanks, Mike. Great seeing you.
Cheers.
Great to you.
Well, Mike, what do you think?
Well, it's great. I mean, Tom, of course, just what a terrific leader in the industry, and continues to be, right on the forefront, the issues and I love the perspective when we can step back and look at the bigger, broader picture, of what's happening and the like I said, where we started, some of the big kind of macro pieces, levers that are driving the industry. It's always really important. It's hard. It's easy to get myopic and kind of get focused in on a particular area, and as opposed to kind of stepping back and saying, here's what's really happening, and here are the key drivers.
Yeah.
And but again, and also, really interesting to get his insight on the
the insider view of that deal is cool.
Yeah, I think that was some of the best. Clearly, I mean, he was, the one to give us that insight. But, I thought it was, again, I think he was really generous and open about, giving some real insight into that transaction in a way I much better understand now. Like when you position that way, it makes a lot of sense. The other thing too is that, it comes back to, makes me feel good about, that all of those brands and that media is going to be in good hands for the industry, right? That's really important because, we need those the coverage and the integrity of the the information and the news and the research to be
and the events is how we all grow our businesses, all of us. So it's critical to our infrastructure. So really cool to hear.
Yeah, it is, and I hope they really invest in growing the brands, which would be fantastic. Yeah.
All right, Mike, thanks very much. That is our show today. If you have a challenge in your business, reach out to Travel Again Advisory to see how we can help bring clarity to your business strategy and outcomes. Mike, that's it. I will see you back here again for our next episode.
Great.
Cheers.
Cheers.